1, 2, 3. Let's roll.
Hey.
See you.
How you doing? My name is Reyes, and we're gonna give you a little insight on what I see and what I think about the Birmingham Roller today.
All right. Before we get started with all that, let's talk about how you got your start, Rayvon.
Well, originally my start came from a gentleman in Watts named Eddie Scott and Sam Gutierrez. I had two families of birds from both of those gentlemen, and that's what started my family of birds.
Okay. Let's talk about a little bit what we talked about in the phone about the formula to success before we pick them out of the air, before we buy birds. What is the drill that we need to do?
Well, I would say one of the main formulas to success is buying good birds, first of all, good stock birds from people. That would be one of the first real starts, is to get the best birds you could possibly purchase. Start there, and then I think from there you can start weeding out and starting to narrow down to what's really going to be your family birds.
You were talking about also, before you even pick up birds, about the proper housing and the maintenance. Share a little bit about that.
Well, I think that you definitely have to know how to house your birds. You want to build a loft that's not too drafty. Of course, you don't want too much draft in on the birds. If at all, you can have it where your east sun comes up and your west sun goes down, and your birds get that total sunlight. That surely will help them, and your breeding and just in general health. It'll help with your birds. Totally. I just think that real simple things are the key to success with pigeons. It doesn't have to be nothing really hard, just very simple. Good fresh water, good clean grain, and medicate only when necessary.
We were talking about certain things on the phone the other day, but something that you said really struck a nerve there, and I think that we should put it down here in video, is what the roller means to Rayvon.
What the roller means to me is, well, it's been my whole life, to be perfectly honest with you. It's been my whole life. It's what keeps me going, and it has kept me going ever since I was a very young man. And for me, it just means that I have to keep on trying to make better rollers and keep good stock out there for people to not only purchase from me, but kind of encourage other people to do the same thing. I think that's one of the most imperative things that we have to do in the pigeon world.
Show aspect.
The show aspect, I think a lot of people have a misconception of the show. Me personally, I do it so we can get out and see our old friends, meet up, talk, have a good time. Because if we didn't have any shows, we wouldn't see each other hardly ever, because most of the guys don't come on most of the flies. So the show aspect for me is to get out and just have fun, show some good birds. If I win, that's fine. If I don't, still I have a good day of fun just hanging out.
Fly aspect.
Fly aspect, number one aspect. We got to keep that in perspective. It is the number one aspect of our hobby. We do have a dual purpose hobby, but the flying is everything. It's the key to everything. It's going to teach other people what to do. It's going to keep you sharp, and it's going to keep you on right there at the top. You know, for me, it's just the whole feeling of when I fly, man. When it's kid competition, when my birds are on, and I know people are going to be here to see them. It just does something to me. You know, it just really does something to me, and that's what I live for.
How can we make it better?
Communication. Communication is going to be the key of making this hobby better. We have to learn how to communicate a lot better than what we have in the past. Also, we got to humble ourselves a little bit. You know, we have to be a little more humble than what we've been in the past, I think. And we got to be willing to open up our yards, our minds to young people, and get more people involved in the hobby, and the hobby will continue on just as it's supposed to.
Here we go. Let's roll. You know, Pensum said, pick them out of the air. But he also said, sometimes the best spinners are not always the best breeders. They're not always the best, you know, showbirds whatsoever. And then Stamplona said, Pick them out of the air, it settles all arguments. Okay. But can you explain to me in detail about the spin? Number one, let's talk about the spin when selecting the birds out of the air.
Well, I think you first have to
What Rayvon likes.
what I like personally. You gotta pick a bird that is not only a good spinning bird, but a good smart bird. A bird that wants to kit, wants to perform day in, day out. Has different characteristics. I've had spinners that today can just burn it and tomorrow can cut it down to 10 or 15 feet. And I think you got to look for an overall bird. An overall pigeon is the key to it for me. I don't think I'm looking for just one bird that can just kit good, a bird that just stays at the front of the kit versus the middle of the kit, maybe trails a little bit. I'm looking for an overall bird, and I think that's the key to it, finding an overall pigeon.
Body type.
Body type. I like medium birds. I do have some small birds, but I do prefer a medium bird. I could best describe the birds that I like. That Nike sign that come on them tennis shoes. You know that Nike sign as it curves up. I like a bird when you hold it and you feel that kill pitch. It has that Nike pitch to it. I like that Nike pitch in my birds. That has been very prevalent in my family of birds, and it seems to work very well for me.
Okay. We're going to get deeper into that right now, body type, after we finish this right here. He's going to demonstrate to us what Rayvon likes. Okay, so hang in there. Let's talk about temperament.
Temperament. I like a bird that's pretty mild. Not too. I don't like a really wild bird. I don't always handle mine a whole lot, but I still like a good temperament on a bird. A bird when you set him into a show pen, he's pretty confident, stands pretty tall. Not trying to break his neck to get out per se. I don't really like a bird really on a wild side. I like a pretty mild pigeon. That's what I choose in my family.
2 favorite colors.
Blue checker self and red checker badges. 2 of my favorite colors.
Let's move it along with a nice question here. So when you make your birds in the ground, do you make them short to deep, or there's more to it than just that?
For me, it's a little bit more to it than that. I make 2 birds that I think complement each other, not only in depth of velocity. I like the velocity more than anything on my pigeons to be right there. So I'm choosing 2 birds that I think will complement each other velocity-wise, and try to make me some 25 to 30 footers. I really like to keep them right up in there for me. That's a safe distance for me, and I think a bird can do a lot in that distance right there. As it gets over 30, 40 foot, I don't know if it's really the greatest bird for kit competition.
Okay. Early to late. Early to late.
With the way things are now, I think we have to breed the birds earlier. We don't get a full season anymore with the hawk being the way it is. So I need a bird that's going to come in a lot earlier than what we used to breed for. I'm looking more for early developers now than what I used to.
Okay. Here's a nice question. Do you body complement your matings to make your ideal pigeon?
Yes, I will take a smaller hen to a medium cock, and I like those matings a little bit better. Although I do like overall medium birds, so I do take a lot of medium to medium. But I do try to make them complement each other as best I can.
Okay. Let's go ahead and let's get into the body type. Let's backtrack a little bit and let's talk about the body type. 10-4?
Okay. Okay, we were talking about some of the ways I like some of my birds, some of the temperament I like on some of my birds. I'm gonna start off with this recessive red cock. I particularly like birds, like I told you, that are medium built, also that are not too wild in the cage. They don't flap around a whole lot. And I also like in my family of birds, let me start off by saying that I like cocks that look like cocks. I like them to have full round heads, nice thick necks, and I like that. That's what I look for in my family of birds. And as you can see, this red right here is a prime example of what I like in my birds. Nice, good round head, nice thick neck. I like that in cocks. I want you to be able to see a cock of mine and just look right off the top and say, that's a cock. And that's what I appreciate in the birds that my family birds that I breed. So this particular one right here is one of my better breeders that has been around for a while. It goes back to the Norm Breed family of birds, and it's been a very good producer for me over the years. And I really work with this particular family quite a bit, and I like the results that I've been getting over the years out of this particular family of birds. Over here I have a nice white self-cock. It goes back to some of the old families that maybe some of you will be familiar with. It's got red-headed hen, and it's a cross bird for me, but it goes back to the red-headed hen bird, and it has a little bit of Lester Lemire stuff in it, which is another part of the family that I've worked with quite a bit over the years. Again, if you look at this bird, the temperament on this bird is he's a pretty mild bird. I like that head. I'm really stuck on that round head and that thick neck on my cocks. That is a trademark for my birds, and I believe for my birds and this family of birds, it's been a very it's been a quality that I would not pass up anything in the world or take away from at all at any point. Moving on, we're going to go down here to a little grizzle hen that I bred down out of some of the jackanet family of birds that I have too. She's been an excellent producer too, and as you can see, she has a much smaller head, but still has a pretty full neck. But you can see the difference between her being a hen and these birds being cocks in this family. And that's what I look for in my birds. Birds are medium built, small to medium built, more medium than the small side. Also, I like to see birds, like I told you, in my hens that don't have as big a heads as the cocks, but still have really nice necks in this family of birds. And we're gonna move on to one of the last hens that I have up here. It's a black hen, a black self hen. Also, again, you can see what I'm saying on the head. Not as big as either of these cocks, but a very good, nice sized neck. Again, is another a trait in this family of birds that I believe is a high quality trait for these particular birds that I've been breeding for years. But that is these are the things that I look for in my hen as far as breeder hens, and these are the things I look for as far as my cocks. Was there some other things you want to talk about?
Yes. As we're talking about, here's another question. Do you mate birds that indicate that they're packing the roll, pertaining to birds that indicate that they're not packing the roll, but yet they roll? Do you make those kind of matings to the mental aspect? Do you make those kind of matings? I
have. I've practiced doing that quite a bit over the years in mating a bird that is really packed with roll versus one that doesn't appear to be as packed with roll. In this family of birds that I've been working with, actually there are about 6 families of birds in here. They go back to the jackanet, 119, which is the Cornell stuff. I have red-headed hen. I have some 1220. I have a little bit of the Norm Breed stuff. And I think that pretty much makes up the family. But yes, getting back to the question you asked, yes, I do put birds together like that all the time. All the time. In this particular family of birds, I'm very high on half brother sister matings. That's been my matings for the last maybe 12, 15 years. I really think that that's where my power lies in this family of birds, with the half brother sister matings. So yes, I do try to stick to that, but that seems to work very well for me.
So, okay, moving it along. So, but you do also mate roll to roll. I mean, because this is a performing line. You made them like that.
I made roll to roll, velocity to velocity. I try to put the most muscle on the smallest compact bird that I can. I put as much muscle as I possibly can put on there. And I do, yes, I do mate all the time, velocity to velocity, the best that I have to the best. I try to keep the birds in the same range like I said, I do like 25 to 35 foot birds. Any deeper than that, I think for kit competition, you may have a few little problems. So I like to keep them right up in that range. But yes, I do make my birds that way.
Okay, do you mate color to color, or you mix them up? I mean, do you mix your colors up? You know?
In my family of birds, they have a lot of color. A lot of birds were based on, the family was based on a lot of checker selfs in the beginning. But I don't really make a whole lot of color to color. I just make the best that I have to each other.
Okay.
If it's selfs, if it's spangles, if it's mob, I just make the best that I have to each other.
Okay. Here's another question. Do you believe in the Norm Reed method of breeding hard feather to soft feather matings?
I think that's got to be your foundation. I really do believe that has to be your foundation for your bird. After you set your foundation for so many years, you can get away from it a little bit. You don't have to go just so much hard to soft. You can get away from a little bit after you've done it for a long time. But I think that has to be one of your main foundations.
So do you also mate dark colors to light colored matings and stuff like that?
Yes, I do it. I don't do it as often because, like I said, the birds have they have 5 families within the one family of birds now that I'm working with, and I have a abundance of different colors. So I don't do it as much as I used to, because with the 5 families of birds I'm working with, I get so many different colors. But it's all based still on my hard blue checker cells and some red checker cells.
You know what? I've been hearing over the years about color mixing, you know, the colors to regulate the roll and stuff like that. But let me ask you this question. Do you believe that it's in the selection and not the color mixing?
I think it's the selection first.
That's right.
I definitely believe it's selection first. Colors come after that, but I think selection is the key.
Okay, let me talk about breeding here. Do you formulate your matings by lining up the star pigeons together regardless of what family they are?
Yes, that's the best way for me to do it.
Okay.
I do the best of the best regardless of what colors they are and what family they are. Exactly.
Okay, but you do practice inbreeding?
Yes.
And line breeding?
Yes, I do a little bit of all of it.
Okay, let's talk about outbreeding. Remember we talked about outbreeding, about Cornell Norwood? When I explained to him about the outbreeding, how mating not close relatives, but distant relatives without bringing anything in. Do you practice that?
Yeah, I do that sometime as well. And it works out very good for me.
Okay, works real good for you.
It works real good for me.
Okay, let's move it along. How about outcrossing? Do you flat out outcross to create the flying tigers?
No, not really. Not really now. No. They've been inbred now for so long, and the family's been this way for 20 years plus. No.
Okay.
I have all crossed within the family of birds that I'm dealing with. You know, so I don't really have to really worry about that.
All right then. Anything else you want to give us an illustration of how you handle the birds? I've seen you the way you handle the birds in the show, man. You're really something else.
Well, I'm glad you noticed that.
Can you illustrate a little bit so we catch you?
Yeah, handling birds for me is just second nature, and it just comes so natural for me because I've done it so long. I've been dealing with birds all my life. But I handle pretty much my birds all pretty much the same, especially before like a big show or a big fly. Say if it's the kit bird, I try to keep the birds down in weight a little, but I still want them real buoyant. For kit competition. I want the birds to look. If you ever looked in your kit box and seen your kit bird, and you open up the door and they just all kind of like standing there looking at you, just really wide-eyed and bright-eyed. But I want mine to be just the opposite of that. I want mine to be a little broke down, almost look like they hadn't ate, but they're strong.
Real fit condition.
Yeah, and when I fill them, I want to be able to fill them, and I don't want to be able to feel anything thin in the keel or in the chest area or the keel. I don't want it to be too thin there. I want you to still be able to feel muscle on them, but I want them to be a little down. I think that's the best way that you can get your birds to perform for you, is if they're just a little down on the downside. And it's always seemed to work for me real good in the family of birds that I've worked with.
All right.
man, I just want to give a props up to my buddy. Come on, Tim. He's been raising with me. We've been having birds together for probably 12, 13 years. And we actually met at Boone's Pet Shop. Yeah, I was up there getting some feed. He was up there getting some, and looking at some birds. And I told him, I asked him if he was interested in some birds. He said, yeah. I said, well, come on by and I'll fly some birds for you. So he came on by, and we've been buddies ever since. And he kind of keeps me. Well, we kind of work with each other on it. He kind of keeps me always thinking about new maidens and new things, and I'm always telling him different things that I think with the birds, and we just kind of put our ideas together, and it works out real good for us. But he's been in the birds, oh man, he goes back to the old Watts days with Eddie Scott and all those guys.
Yeah, iron sharpens iron, man.
Yeah.
The Bible says.
We kind of, I'm kind of his iron chef, and he's kind of mine, but we have a lot of ideas that we do implement on the pigeons as far as not only just our flying techniques. He brings a lot of things in to me that I didn't used to do. He keeps a lot of records every day on his birds as he flies his kit, the weather conditions, if he got hit, everything that the kit particularly did that day. What feed he fed him, how much he fed him, that kind of stuff. Those types of things I think really helped me become even a better flyer, because it helped me just kind of sharpen my knife a little bit too. So yeah, I want to give big kudos up to him. My kids are in the house now. I got two sons that are, one's a pigeon lover, the other one's not, but he can clean a cage better than anybody I know. And he's been doing it ever since he's about 9 years old. Keeping everything together for me. And so I just want to give it up to them. Let them know.
All right then. Let's move it along a little bit. Let's just pause for a moment.
Okay, I'm just going to explain to you a little bit of what I like in my family of birds, and I think is important in the Birmingham roller today. I think you got to have a really good wing. I think the wing dictates a lot on the roll and the roll type. And for me, I like these narrow secondaries. I don't want them to be too fat. If you can see what I'm saying, I don't want any of these down here to be too long, too fat. I want them a little more narrow up in here, and I think that's going to help in the speed of the bird, the velocity of the bird, and how the bird executes the roll. I believe that that's prevalent in our birds. Year after year, we've always picked pretty much the same type of birds, and all the ones that we've picked out there have been some of the best birds we've ever bred. Had very good wings, not too wide this way, and not too long this way. And I think that's imperative in producing a high velocity spinning pigeon. That it has to have that. As it goes for eye sign, I think eye sign is important, but I don't think it's the most important thing. I really don't. I've heard people say, make comments like, well, bull-eye birds don't roll. Some of the best birds I've ever seen in my life were bull-eye birds. And I don't think that it had anything to do with the type of spinner it was. I think people's perception may be that, because maybe a bull-eye bird doesn't show itself as good. You can't always see the pupil flex in a bird with bull-eye, but you can see through a bull-eye, and it just depends on that bird itself. So I don't have a preference in terms of if I would breed a bull-eye bird, or I breed them all. I'm not partial to any one. I know that it won't show the sign sometime when you're looking at a bird in the hand, as you will see the orange-eye birds or your pearl-eye birds. But to me, it's still a great bird. And that's the way I've always dealt with birds and bred them that same way. And that worked out pretty good.
I've taken note that your pigeons have nice apple bodies just by looking at them. So you breed for the apple body.
I breed for type. I breed for type as well. Yes, I do breed for
the apple body?
Yes.
Because that bird, do you like it when the apple begins right away, or you like it to be back off a little bit and then start?
More right away and then back off as it goes back toward the end. In my birds, I like that a little bit.
That black hen looks real typey. I can tell you.
She's a very nice type bird, and one of my one of my better producers hens. Very nice, very good temperament, and just a very nice all-around bird. Very nice all-around bird.
All right, let's talk about the tortoise.
This tort, one of my favorites, one of my older breeder birds that I bred some years back. Goes back to old Jackanet, Rusty, the Rusty stuff. Another high velocity. This is a very high velocity spinning bird. I flew her actually here when I moved here about 8 years ago. This is one of the first birds I flew and certified here. Again, I like that wing in my hens, same way. Not too long, not too wide up here in the secondaries. I don't want a real thick feather up in here, and I don't want a real long wing that sticks out really long. If you can see, they're going to pretty much all be pretty close to the same. And for velocity, you can't beat it. Can't beat this. Eye sign again, just a very nice eye sign on this bird. A real nice apple-bodied pigeon, and just one of my best breeders. Also great temperament.
I noticed that she has a real nice short back on her too.
Yes, she does. This is one of the best birds I bred once I moved out here to Rialto from Compton. She's one of the first birds I certified and one of the best breeders that I actually flew in about 2 years. I flew her for about 2 seasons, and she was just all around, and she produced me some winners ever since then.
All right, let's move over to the cocks.
This cock actually was a mating. Me and one of my real good friends that I started off in pigeons with, Juan Navarro. This is one of his, me and him made a mating on this particular white bird. A cock of mine and a hen of his. So it has a lot of red-headed hen with a little bit of the Jackanet stuff in it. Again, the wing on the cock, not too long. Secondaries, I do not like them too wide or too long. The whole wing itself is not even that long. It's pretty much the same size as the hens I showed you. He's just a little heavier because he's a cock. But again, like I was telling you, I like that neck, that big neck and that round head on my cocks. He's got a great apple body, and he's also another one of my very good producers I've had now for a while.
All right. Yeah, he's a beauty. Okay.
And moving down here to the last cock, he's a recessive red. This is a cock that I actually purchased back in 05. Yeah, I purchased this bird from Norm Reed out of his breeding stock. Actually, I bought him a ticket to the convention, and he told me for buying him the ticket, I could pick any one bird I wanted out of his whole loft. So it took me about an hour and a half or 2 to go through them, and I ended up picking this beautiful cock out of there. And his number is 508. He's nothing but the old 991, 778 stuff of Norm Reed's. He's been a very good producer for me ever since I had him. I appreciate him letting me get him. Okay. Yeah, I want to finish telling you about this bird and how I came into becoming mine. I bought Norm a ticket to the Portland NBRC convention, and he told me I could pick any one bird I wanted out of his breeding loft for doing that. And so I went through all the birds, and I ended up coming up with this beautiful recessive red cock out of his stock loft. And this bird has been a very good producer for me, and I knew it would be once I picked it from Norm. But I just really appreciate him allowed me to pick a bird like this from him. And me and Norm go back a long way. We go back a long way. I've learned a lot of things from Norm over the years. Norm is a real good guy, and he's always been fair to me. And we never had any problem. And so I just wanted to speak on this particular bird. It goes back to his old family, which is his 991-778 family. And that was one of the best families I've ever seen, period, I think, in pigeons over my years. And so I just wanted to give a big ups to Norm for letting me get this bird.
You know what, since you're in that since we're here right now, can you give me a couple of other guys that you really look up to and really want to give thanks to them, you know, for the help? And
to be honest with you, the list is so long.
Give me a couple.
I'm running down to you. First, the two guys I told you about that gave me my start, Sam Gutierrez, one of the best guys I've ever met in the hobby, period. And my personal idol was Eddie Scott, who also was he's just a tremendous guy and has some of the best birds you could ever imagine at the time. My buddy Tim also has been involved in that with us. Like I say, we've done everything with these birds together. I can go back and talk about people like that helped me get started, helped me stay focused. Steve Smith, he's another guy. Jerry Higgins, very good longtime friend of mine. Me and Tim Decker go back far. Me and Tim got a little special connection. You have to ask Tim about that. But Keith London he's my idol right now. Keith is I think he's right there on the tip of doing really big things. He's going to win one of these big flies, the World Cup or the fall fly. He's a hell of a guy. He's been the same way all the time.
He helps out the novices too, doesn't he?
Keith does something for a little bit.
That's what I heard. I heard through the pipeline.
He's a hell of a guy. And
cool.
So those are the people that I don't want to leave nobody out. I go back as far as with Willie Wright. We go back to the early 80s. I still think one of the best guys I've ever met in pigeons ever is Arnold Jackson. He's a scholar, he's a gentleman. Another gentleman too I can't leave out is John Jones. If I can do half of what John's done in the hobby, I'll be straight. I'll be straight.
All right. Here's this holdover pin. Without question, Rayvon has some serious pigeons. I know as a show judge, I've seen the way he handles the pigeons. He takes it real serious. Serious roller man. We're gonna go ahead and get his fly boxes too. We're gonna talk about what he looks for if he was starting off all over again to help out the beginner, because that's the name of the game. You know, the fancy is gonna grow through starting off young fanciers on the right track, and that's the basis of these videos that Johnny Ray is making. All right, here we go.
Ready? Okay. I want to talk a little bit about kid birds, my kid birds, and what I look for in my kid birds. And I still basically look for some of the same things that I've told you about in my breeders and my kid birds. I like for my kid birds to be small to medium. Also, I don't like them to be as real wild. I like them to be pretty tame and it may vary a little bit in type when they're young birds, but as they start maturing out, everything starts to come together for my birds, and I think that's how I pick the birds that I'm gonna use from the kit box into the stock loft at any given time. I'm gonna pull out a few birds and give you a general idea of what I'm looking for in some birds as young birds, You can't tell everything in them yet because they're still very young. Probably can't really pull out what I want to see in them until maybe the second season.
Okay.
So the first season, I'm just looking for birds that want to kit good, enjoy rolling, and do everything that your young kid bird should do. Like I said, kid very well. No real bad habits. I'm looking for nothing with no real bad habits early on. As time goes on and the birds get a little older, and I can be a little more stricter, start looking for a little different things in them as they mature out. When they're young, you can't look for the same things. You got to give them some time. So I'm gonna pull a few birds out and put them over in the show pen. Okay, here's a couple of my birds from the kit box. Starting with this little red checker. Again, I like a small to medium bird. I like a bird with a really good temperament starting out. I don't handle them a lot, so I still like a bird to still have a pretty fair temperament, even though they're not getting handled a whole lot.
That's important.
With this red checker, one of my favorite colors are red checker badges. Excuse me, or red checker badges. With this particular bird, I like the way this bird just reacts in the kit box on its own, sitting on a perch. It seems to be a very independent bird. When I say independent, for my family of birds, it's just, it makes you notice him. It makes you notice him when he's sitting in there. It makes you notice him when he's walking on the ground, when he's on top of the cage. It just has a personality about itself. And you can see that.
Like he's in control.
Like he's in control, and like he's going to be one of the controlling factors of this whole kit. And to me, that's what I'm looking for in a young bird. I'm looking for things like that. I'm looking for things that birds do that are not always as ordinary. I want a little extraordinary out of a pigeon.
Okay, I got that.
It gives me a little bit of a insight of what I'm looking for. Now it could change. You know, you never know. It could change, but that's what I start off trying to look for. Because birds change as they mature. They don't always start off the way they'll finish up. So you got to just kind of be selective in that and try to pick the best ones you can.
But everything you're talking about are the good signs.
Yes.
These are the good signs. Okay. Let's move on to the next one.
This little tort here is one of my favorites that's in the kit box. A little hen. She's been into the role since she was about maybe 4 months old. She's been up. This is her second season here. She's another bird that has impressed me from the time I put her out in the kit box. She's a real confident type of pigeon. And she's not a bird that mates real easy to other birds. I've had birds that mate up in the kit box seem like immediately. Some of my hens, like this particular hen, seem to hold off, don't want to mate, not trying to take a mate right now. And to me, that's very important, because with your young birds, your young hens, they mate up too early, start laying eggs in the kit box. If you don't notice that they have an egg in them, you'll fly them, end up rolling out the egg sac, and you'll ruin a good bird like that. So I particularly like this hen because she's kind of holding back. She's not in no particular hurry, and I like that in young hens.
That's good. That's good information.
Moving on to this last cock, he's been a mature-looking bird from the beginning. Also, I like that in my family of birds. He looks much older than what he is actually. We tend to have a family of birds that mature very fast. 3 to 4 months old. Some of our cocks are ready to breed. They're actually chasing the hens around, doing little different things. So you got to kind of balance it out. Because if he wants to breed too soon, he'll never become the roller he should become for trying to mate. I haven't been one to practice flying all hen kits and cock kits. I've been kind of keeping them all together. But when you have a maturing family like we do, you got to kind of be aware of it, because they will mate up fast on you if you don't watch it. And from that particular point on, they'll do all kind of little crazy things when it comes to kit competition. They fly out from the kit, clap and glide, pull hens away from the kit. So you got to be kind of careful with that particular part of it. But it's a good family, even though they do mature very fast. It's still a very good family. So this is what I'm looking for in young cock birds. A bird that has a look of a mature bird, but he's not totally mature yet.
How many months did it take him to come into the role?
Like I was telling you earlier, I'm breeding the birds coming a little earlier, 3 to 4 months old now, because we're not getting a lot of flying time.
Like the Lemar method.
Yes, we're only getting like maybe 7-8 months of flying time. And after that, the hawk is in on us and we can't do what we used to do. So it'll be more beneficial to me if it comes in lower. But it has to come in and be stable as well. Not just come in early, it has to be stable for that period of time. So
what's the best time to mate down your birds, to work around the hawk situation?
for me this year, the hawk usually leaves us in April and comes back in October. So I put the birds down maybe the first week or two in April, try to get the birds out. First week in May, he's gone. I can get a good training, get my youngsters trained and honed in good, and hope for the best before October.
After October something, it's no good, huh?
Pretty much, if you haven't got them up kitten by October, they still in the kit box, you can pretty much call it a year. It's pretty much over.
How do you refly? How do you get the? What is your procedure to refly your kit birds after
I've held them in for a while.
Yeah, after putting them up for fall and winter.
Well, while we got the birds locked up and we're not flying them, we feed them 16%. We give them all the protein that they need because they're not flying. They're just sitting out. As we're starting to get back around to trying to fly them again, we cut them down to maybe 14%. No corn. We keep that going on them for maybe 2 weeks at a time, try to trim them down a little bit because they've been sitting up about 4.5, 5 months. After we get them trimmed up, flying under an hour, we will go to all wheat on them maybe 2 weeks before competition to really get the birds to come together into the roll and they start kitting again really good. That seems to work real good for this family.
Because of the hawk situation, how much airtime now? How much airtime do we fly the birds out before we stock them out, Ray?
That's a good question. It varies from person to person, but if I can get two 7-month seasons in, I think that's sufficient enough. If we can get that. So if we can get 7 months out of this 09 season and a bird to fly 7 months of the 2010 season, I think that's sufficient enough.
We talked about this earlier. We talked about this on the phone. How stocking out early development is the way of the future. Back in the days, I think back in '95, I recorded Jerry Higgins. Jerry Higgins made a statement. He said to me, at 6 months, there's no reason why they shouldn't be rolling. It's as big as they're going to get. It's as strong as they're going to get. If they're sexually mature, there's no reason why they shouldn't be rolling. He said himself that he's not into the 2-year plan. That 2-year plan and 1-year plan is really late already for the Birmingham roller in Southern California. What do you think about that?
Well, I think he's right. You'll never be competitive with the 2-year plan. Right now, the fly competitions are a certain part of the year, and if your bird is not coming in for a whole season or so, you won't be very competitive. So I agree with him on that.
So now, more or less, we're talking freely here. We're coming to a close. We have to pay more attention to the mental aspect of the Birmingham roller. Like I noticed you were talking about these birds right now. We have to pay more attention to that because we're stocking them out much earlier and not getting the air time, or else we're going to produce nothing but ground rollers. What do you think about that?
I think that still is very important. One thing I believe is that you got to it's got to be a compromise between the mental and the physical aspect of a roller. It has to be a compromise. I think what we're trying to get our birds to do, Mother Nature is trying to get them not to do that. So we have to work that just that much harder to get the birds to roll in a timely fashion. So I do believe in that particular part. It's a mental and physical game. It really is. A bird with no mental, but all the physical in the world is not going to pan out to be much. And a bird with all the physical and no mental has the same problem. So I think that we have to kind of weigh it out. You know, it's 6 of one, half dozen of another.
Okay, as we're coming to a close, Rayvon, do you believe in the hole when they roll?
Depending on what angle you're at, yes, I do believe in it. You have to be at a certain angle to see it. Yes, I do believe that. No, I do believe that. I also believe that colors sometimes, me and my buddy talked about this, colors sometimes show roll in a different way than other colors. I've noticed that birds that are black, white flighted, red, white flighted, tend to show the hole more visible if it's there than some of your darker checker birds do. In our family of birds, at least, that's what we've seen. So yeah, I kind of believe that.
So, but you still believe in the hole, though?
Yes.
Okay. You know, it's really funny. I want to add this in the video that someone asked me about the hole the other day, and this is what I said. I'll put it down in video here. That you could be underneath your pigeons. The pigeon could be flying away from you, flying towards you. It could be in an angle where you cannot see the hole. Yet, if that pigeon is rolling in a single unit with extreme velocity, it's an ideal pigeon. What do you have to say about that?
I agree.
All right.
I totally agree with
Thank you. Thank you. As we're, like I said before, let's talk a little bit about why do you think the hole in some of the rollers is not there? What's up with that, in your opinion?
In my opinion, I think it's the wing placement of the roller. I don't think some of the birds can put the wings up far enough to produce that illusion of the hole. I think some of the birds are not built to show that. You know, with the different type of patterns, I've heard people over the years say the H pattern. I've heard a V pattern, and then you've heard, of course, the donut hole and that kind of thing.
I like to use the word single unit. You know what I mean? Because you could be right underneath it and just boom, that's all you see. That's all you see. You know. And but let's talk a little bit more here. Here's the next question. Why does the spinner appear to be shrinking in size as it's rolling? Have you seen that before?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
What do you think's causing that, Rick? In your opinion, for the camera here?
I still believe that it's the way the bird placement of the wing still is. That does that and shows you that hole, and I believe that that's been evident in our family of birds, and I think that velocity on it, if that velocity on it is so good, it really doesn't matter, like you said before, what angle you see it at. You're going to see the hole. And so I just think that is one of the keys.
Okay, I've seen some pretty phenomenal kits over the years, and I've seen kits when they break, it looked like they hit a wall. Just bang, and they all go. Someone said the other day that it's just like a basket of apples being turned upside down, and there they go. But I've also seen good kit of birds, like if they're going over the wall, like, you know, they're like going up and wham, there they go. Okay, and then we have what we call the waterfall effect. You know, the waterfall. You got 20 good ones in there. They're not all rolled at the same time, man. But what a spectacular team. Then we have the yo-yos. It's probably similar, you know, to the waterfall. There's different names. Okay, now, did I leave something out? Is there another type of break that you can tell me about, or if not, which one do you prefer of all four?
Of all the breaks you just named, I think I prefer, and I think it's more pleasing to my eyes to see that just like they hit a wall. Yeah,
All
like
right,
imaginary
all right.
wall. I think
All
that's the greatest effect of watching.
All right then, man. We've come to a pretty good close. Maybe we can talk a little bit about the feed that you give your kit birds for the novices.
Okay.
Let's not forget about them. You want to talk maybe about? Well, let's go ahead. Roll it.
Well, we start off from the time we wean our bird. We start off with just 12%, not a lot of corn in it, so the young bird can get used to picking up as much grain as possible. Sometimes when you have a lot of corn in the feed and you weaning birds, your young birds start off picking small seeds, and some start off picking large seeds, and that makes a difference later on down the line as far as the nutritional value. If you get a bird that eats small seed versus a bird that eats large seed, nutritionally, they're going to be totally different. So we like to start our birds off with 12%, not a lot of corn. And as we see that they're weaning good, we'll pick up maybe to 14% to get them going. Start our training process with that. We don't usually go to anything else until after the birds have started kitting and turn over a little bit, a little action. Then we may put a little weed on them for maybe 6 to 7 days to see how that affects them and their flying and kitten and things like that. I found out that you got to switch it up a little bit on them. Throw them off. Don't keep them on one thing too long. Try to switch other grains on them just to see what effect it has on them. Because some grains have some effects on different families of birds than others. I knew guys that used to feed birds Milo, and they fed them Milo from the time they weaned them and never had a sick bird. We tried to do that, we'll lose half of them. So I think it's your family of birds too as well, and what works best for your family of birds. But I would start off with just a good solid 12% grain, and as you're starting to wean them, maybe pick it up to about 14%, and just keep them on that until after they, I don't know, well, to 4 months old, 5 months old, and then try little other things on them just to see what happens. That seems to have worked for us all this time, so I stick with what worked for me.
Okay. A week before competition day, what's the drill?
A week before competition day for us is to try and work them as hard as we can leading up to that competition day. And we do change the feed on them depending on how they're flying and what time they're flying for us. And then we rest them. We rest our birds a day or two before the fly. And that seems to give them a lot of burst of energy to come out that kid box and really work it out for us. That's pretty much been our formula, pretty much. That's pretty much how we've done it. It seems to work very well for us, so we stick with that.
All right, then you're going to fly some birds for us, huh?
Yeah, we're going to kick up this kid I had up earlier today and watch him circle around and hope the hawk don't come and get him.
All right, man. Ray, I want to thank you very much for this interview. I've had a lot of fun this morning, and I hope you enjoyed the interview. And I'm pretty sure that your friends and family will get a kick out of it. All right?
I want to say I appreciate you coming out and asking me to do it, first of all. I hope that anybody that does view the video can pick up something from it. And if they still don't get it, they can always call me and we can chat about it over the phone or come and see me. I'm retired now, so they can come anytime. I think it's a great thing what you're doing, putting people on tape because it's going to last forever, and getting everybody's opinion of things. And I want to be a part of anything that's positive, so I'm glad that you came out and allowed me to be a part of it.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. You want me to get them in? You want to fly you? Oh, yeah, they Yeah, that's because they was up earlier, though.
man, you did too. You did the Ides of March.
Yeah, this little red is out of my 06 kit. One of the hens I had out here earlier, the tort hen, is her mother. This was probably the best bird that I've bred in the last 5 years since I've been here. Just all around excellent bird. Can do anything. This bird here has velocity that you wouldn't believe. She could roll 10 feet, 30 feet, it didn't matter. She can do it all. Very smart pigeon as well too. Knew how to cut it off low, just everything. Complete bird. And she's went on to produce me some very good birds. Very good birds. This is who she was on last year, as a matter of fact. And this cock goes back down out of that same tort hen that was out here. And another cock I made out of some of the Norm family crossed with the Jackanet family. Also, he was flown, certified. Another thing I didn't mention to you is that I have 47 breeders that were flown that make up my log. 47 birds that were flown. So it's been simple. When you got that many birds that were flown and proven out, it just makes it a lot simpler for me. So I have a lot of birds that were flown in and certified, and that's why they're here.
I handle both the birds, the hen and the cock. They're very ideal. I'm telling you, they got everything. Okay, let's move on to the next over here. That is a nice blue.
This young cock is is actually down out of this same cock right here. And a hen I don't have any longer, which goes back to the same stuff. This cock and this little hen here are nest mates, as a matter of fact, blue check white flight. I pulled them both out of my last year's kit and the young bird kit and pulled them in because I seen something in both of them that I was going to need. And I like this little cock, especially. He was very cocky early, but he was still a good bird. So I chose to bring him on in. And actually, he's breeding now. The hen I won't breed till she gets maybe over a year old, a little over a year. I don't like to breed the hens too early because sometimes when you breed them too early, you get egg bound. But if you let them go here, over a year old, you seem to do pretty good with them. This little bird, this little checker hen, also was an 06 kit along with this red and was a superstar. Also, her daddy is his uncle, so it's all tied in together. But she was a certified bird, flew the whole 2 seasons, pulled her in early part of this year, and you're in the breeder. This cock is this cock's daddy, and he's another bird that was certifiable. I had him certified as NBRC certified spinner. He was certified as well as his son, and just some of the stuff that I was telling you about in the video that had been very good for me. It's worked all the time for me.
Real nice, real nice. All right, then some extra stuff there, just in case my buddy Leon can put it in there.
Okay.